All right, folks, thank you very much. I would like to welcome everyone and thank everyone for joining us today at our regional radio communications seminar. I see at present we have over 100 persons in attendance, probably in total close to 140. And this Regional Radio Communications Seminar 2020 is hosted jointly by the ITU and the Caribbean Telecommunications Union. I am Nigel Casimir, the telecommunications specialist at the CTU Secretariat based in Port of Spain. And just before we get started, I want to share a few tips so that you can participate successfully. The next time you log into the webinar, and hopefully we won't have any glitches with the links. When you log in, please sign in with your information in this order. You put first name, last name. If you can indicate your organization, a short abbreviation if you can, and country. For example, me as Nigel Casimir, I will put Nigel Casimir, CTU, and TNT, Trinidad and Tobago, or TT. You can use the two-letter country code, top-level domain descriptor to indicate your country. The reason we ask this is that it would make you easily identifiable for entry to the webinar and for posing questions and for interventions. Now, during the presentations in the webinar, we ask that you post your questions to the Q&A section. There's a Q&A box that you can access by clicking the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom window. This will allow your questions to be seen and most efficiently addressed. And I want to say that using the Q&A for questions is especially important since there are hundreds of persons registered for this webinar and there will be limited opportunity for verbal interventions. Use the chat button at the bottom of the Zoom window for sharing general comments and information with panelists and or with all attendees. The default setting for the chat is to all panelists. So you have to be sure to select your desired recipients when entering your comments in the chat box, whether it's all panelists only or whether it's panelists and attendees. The seminar presentation slides are and would be posted on the event webpage on the ITU website. So the same webpage you found to get information on the seminar and register and so on, the seminar presentation slides will be found on that same webpage. And of course, this seminar would continue every weekday at this time for the next 2 weeks. And just to get us going now, I would like to introduce my Secretary General, the Secretary General of the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, Ms. Bernadette Lewis, to say a few words of welcome, deliver some remarks. Ms. Lewis, please.
Specialist at the CTU. Mario Manuich, good to see you, Director of the Radio Communications Bureau. Mr. Bruno Ramos, the Regional Director for the ITU Regional Office for the Americas. Good to see you doubling for Cleveland, but I'll still say hello to Cleveland. I recognize Cleveland Thomas, he's the ITU's Caribbean representative, and other ITU and CTU officials, registrants, participants, good morning. It gives me great satisfaction to support the International Telecommunications Union in convening this virtual regional radio communication seminar 2020 for the Americas. The CTU has been working in the area of harmonizing spectrum management policies and practices for many years. In recent times, we have been coordinating work of the Caribbean Spectrum Management Steering Committee and the Caribbean Spectrum Management Task Force, the regional bodies which address radio frequency spectrum issues. The CTU and the ITU have worked collaboratively for many years on many ICT subjects, and it is fitting because of our work in the area of Caribbean spectrum management that we have partnered and are supporting the ITU in this very important 2020 Regional Radio Communication Seminar. Of course, the COVID-19 pandemic has changed our world forever, and the deliberations of this seminar of necessity have gone online and are virtual. But nevertheless, I am confident that as we seek to better understand the procedure for recording frequency assignments, as we consider the modifications to the radio regulations and the agenda for WRC 23, as we discuss the regulatory framework for international frequency management and engage in capacity building activities, we will make effective use of the technology available to us to achieve the goals of this seminar. And the forum commencing on Tuesday, the 21st of July, will provide much insight as it will address the WRC outcomes and challenges and opportunities for the region. So again, it is our pleasure, it is the pleasure of the CTU to support this venture. I hope that eventually our 300 registrants would find their way online. And for those who have joined us this morning, we thank you for joining, and I encourage you to stay the course with us for the duration of the seminar. I'm certainly looking forward to a productive and beneficial seminar and to meaningful deliberations and beneficial outcomes. So I thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to say these few words.
Thank you, SG, for those introductory words and the encouragement to stay the course. I should mention too that this seminar is being recorded, and hopefully it would be available on demand either on the CTU or either through the CTU or the ITU at the end of this seminar. So moving along, I would now like to invite to give his remarks the director of the Radio Communication Bureau at the International Telecommunication Union, Mr. Mario Maniowicz. Mario.
Thanks very much, Nigel. And it's also a pleasure, Bernadette, to see you. So more formally, Ms. Bernadette Lewis, Secretary General of the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, Mr. Bruno Ramos, the ITU Regional Director for the Americas. It's also a pleasure to see Nigel Casimir, who is looking after the radio communication issues in CTU. So he's working very closely with us. So distinguished participants and dear friends, it really gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this ITU Regional Radio Communication Seminar for the Americas region, which is being held in collaboration with the Caribbean Telecommunications Union. I'm pleased to note that more than 300 participants coming from 38 countries, including 28 countries from the Americas region, as well as 6 international organizations and associations, will be joining us during the next 2 weeks to discuss various aspects of radio communications and their impact in the Americas region. As you know, the Americas region continues to make great strides in expanding access to and use of ICTs. The number of individuals using the internet has grown from 43% to over 77% in the past 10 years. More than 90% of the population in the region is covered by a 4G or higher network. Active mobile subscriptions stand over 104%. The Americas is the only ITU region where the number of men and women using the internet is near parity. However, more work is still needed to bring accessible and affordable telecommunications to all countries across the region. Indeed, from North to South America, passing through the Central American area and the Caribbean, the Americas encompasses countries with very different in size, economy, geopolitics, and social reality. And this is reflected, of course, in the peculiarities of the ICT sector in each sub-region. If we look more closely into the Caribbean, for example, we see that aeronautical and maritime services are of high importance to the economy and to the safety of those traveling. The region has a historical vulnerability to extreme weather events that makes it more dependent on accurate weather forecasting and atmospheric measurements. One cannot overstate the importance of understanding and addressing the overall impact of climate change for this region. In this context, the variety of applications within the science services provide knowledge essential for the Caribbean's near and longer term survival. We can also observe that there are portions of available spectrum referred to as digital assets that can be used to increase broadband connectivity in the region. During the past 4 months, we have all been living, learning, and working under exceptional circumstances as a result of the COVID-19 global health emergency. During the current pandemic, digital technologies have become a critical lifeline for economies, societies, and individuals around the world. They are keeping businesses open, enabling people to work from home, helping children stay in school through e-learning tools, and assisting people to access critical services such as healthcare and financial services. I acknowledge the great initiatives of the Caribbean Telecommunications Union in assisting people with disabilities during COVID-19 and beyond. These are special times, and technology can be fundamental to support those that need assistive services. At ITU, we are also making full use of technology to ensure our key meetings and events, such as this one, go virtual, and we continue delivering to meet the expectations of our members. Ladies and gentlemen, the main objective of this seminar is to extend assistance to member states in spectrum management activities and in the application of the radio regulations, with special attention to developing countries. To this end, we will provide the basic concepts of spectrum management at national and international levels, the ITU radio regulations, ITU and ITUR structures and functions, including the ITUR study groups and VR departments, and the ITU's basic texts. The first part of the seminar will also cover the regulatory framework for both terrestrial and space services and the procedures for recording of frequency assignment in the Master International Frequency Register. This will include basic training on ICT tools developed by the BR for frequency notifications and technical examinations. The second part of the seminar consists of tutorial on the use of these tools. This will enable the participants to get experience with ITU notification procedures, as well as with the software and electronic publications made available by the BR. The seminar will conclude with a forum on WRC 19 outcomes, challenges and opportunities for the region. As you know, WRC 19 opened up the opportunity for introducing innovative and advanced services in the field of telecommunications that have the potential to accelerate the digital transformation in the Caribbean, the Americas, and throughout the world. And finally, there will be also a session dedicated to emergency communications that is especially relevant to this region. Dear colleagues, having come from Uruguay, the Americas region is very dear to my heart, and especially the beautiful region of Central America and the Caribbean. As you surely remember, we have very recently worked with the Central American and Caribbean regions to facilitate the process of transition from analog to digital television and allocation of the digital dividend. After such a positive experience, we look forward to continuing working with the region, whether to support you in the implementation of the decisions of WRC 19 or to assist you in the preparation process towards WRC 23. Rest assured that the ITU is ready to provide any technical assistance you may require. I'm personally looking forward to being with you in person very soon and to further strengthen our bonds with the region. Having said that, I know that you have a very heavy agenda before you, so let me conclude by thanking the CTU once again for collaborating with ITU in organizing this virtual regional radio communications seminar. I wish you a very fruitful seminar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director. We certainly look forward to the interesting and informative content that we have on tap for this, for this seminar. What would be very interesting as well is how we deliver the value using the online mechanism. We've certainly had the experience in the past of this seminar in person in different countries of the Caribbean. And we certainly appreciate some of the hands-on activities that that are done in the tutorials. So we certainly would be challenged to be as effective using this medium. So we hope and we look forward to it happening as effectively as we can. So now that more or less closes our formal opening ceremony aspect of this seminar. We would now get into the actual meat of things, and to coordinate that from the ITU side would be Mr. Joaquin Restrepo, and I would ask Joaquin now to take the floor and introduce his colleagues as required. Thank you. Joaquin?
Thank you, Nigel. Thanks to CTU again for all this support. In this today's session, we are going to make some basic presentations about the I2R structures and publications and so on, as well from I2D that will be in charge of my colleague Isvan Wojcicki. Some points just before starting. First, on the document you have and the email you have just received with all the instructions about the different sessions, I apologize, I made a mistake. On the Tuesday 21st, I had missed to put the session of satellite. So Tuesday 21st, we start the forum part of the seminar from Tuesday to Friday. And this day we will have some a keynote speech from our BR director, followed by the digital television session and the satellite session. So please apologize me for that, and satellite session is well there. Second important point, on the document we have provided you on the pre-seminar web tutorial, we have included a file with all the regulatory documents. It includes in particular the radio regulations. Then I kindly ask to have in hand this document. You will find both in English, Spanish, and French, but because this seminar will be all in English, I recommend to have the English version in hand, because permanently during the seminar, we are going to do again and again reference to content of that. Tomorrow we'll provide further details about the specific part of this radio regulation. This first part today could be some kind of basic concepts. I apologize to all these participants being already very familiar with ITU, but we need to do this kind of basic content session in order to guarantee that all participants have the minimal knowledge background about how the I2R is working, so they could further understand the other presentation we are going to do during the week. Saying that, let me share then the screen. First, I'm going to open. So, do you have your screens? My presentation is okay, Nigel?
Yes, I'm seeing it.
Okay. Now let's make a brief description about the International Telecommunication Union and also of radio communication sector. It's a beautiful picture from our ITU headquarters at Geneva. Who are we? The International Telecommunication Union is a specialized agency for information and communication technology from the United Nations system. Then we are ruled by the main principle of the United Nations Charter and also the rules about the the working manners of these specialized agencies. We have 103 member states, but we are also joining more than 700 organizations from private sector, and now we have more than 150 academia members. We are placed at Geneva, our headquarters, and we have several regional offices. Basically, we have a regional office for Bangkok, for Asia and Pacific. placed in Bangkok, and having an area office for Southern Asia and Pacific in Jakarta. We have African office in Addis Ababa, having a 3 area office in Dakar, Yaoundé, and Harare. We have also a regional office for Arab countries in Cairo and for CIS countries in Moscow. Also one for Eastern European countries, but that is placed in Geneva. And we have, in this case, for us, the Americas office, led by my colleague, also connected, Bruno Ramos. And there are 3 area offices, having in mind the diversity of cultures and economies of the region. One for Caribbean in Bridgetown, led by my colleague Cleveland, and one for Central America in Tegucigalpa, and one for South America in Santiago. ITU is not the oldest, because it could be a little misinterpreted, is the eldest of the international organizations. We were created in 1865, specifically the 17 May. That's the reason why the 17 May we celebrate the Universal Day of ICT, so before Telecommunication Day, now ICT Day. It was created by 20 nations as the International Telegraphic Union. And during all this time, we have evolved. We was renamed in 1934. Sorry, in 1994 as ITU. We joined the United Nations system at the specialized agenda in 1947. And our headquarters was initially placed at the Bern. Then in 1948, we moved to Geneva. I'm going to skip that. It's on the most important telecommunication milestones and the related activities of ITU on that regard. And we celebrated 150 years in 2015. So now we are celebrating 155 years. How are we organized? Well, we have, first of all, our legal instruments. We have so named also as basic text. Then on your documents or regulatory documents in that file, you are going to find out a document named legal basic text. That basic text is this content: the Constitution, basic instrument of the ITU with the object of facilitating peaceful relation and international cooperation among peoples and economics and social development by means of efficient telecommunication service, the convention that complement the Constitution, and the administrative regulation. We have 2 of them, International Telecommunication Regulation and the Radio Regulation. Then in that sense, the Radio Regulation is part of the ITU legal instrument within the component of administrative regulations. Sorry. The ITU governance, we are governed by the Plenipotentiary Conference and the Administrative Council. The Plenipotentiary Conference is the supreme organ of the Union, is the decision-making body which determines the direction of the Union and its activities. The Plenipotentiary, also named as PP, is held every 4 years. Last 2 editions were in Korea, 2014, and Dubai in 2018. And the next one will be in 2022. The venue is about to be defined. One of the actions performed during the Plenipotentiary Conference is the election of all the elected officials, as well as the member of the Radio Regulatory Board. So the current elected officials, I mean, were elected in the last PP18, then they will be in function from 1st January 2019 until 31 December 22. Will be our Secretary General, Holin Xiao from China. He was re-elected. Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Michael Johnson from the United Kingdom, also re-elected. ITU Radio Communication Bureau, our director, he has just spoke, Mr. Mario Manewis from Uruguay. ITU Standardization Bureau, Chasul Lee from Korea, re-elected. And the ITU Development Bureau, Mrs. Dori Bogan-Martin from US. Please have in mind that although we are indicating here the nationality, they must act in an independent manner in representation of the organization. And we have the composition of the Radio Regulatory Board. I'm going to skip because tomorrow we are going to revisit that. And during every year, we have then between two plenipotentiary conferences, the council, that is the governing body within this conference. It's confirmed by administration that are elected during the plenipotentiary conference that shall be less than 25% of the state members. At this moment, then the council is composed by 48 members, and its role is to consider the broad communication, telecommunication policy of the union, activities, policies, and strategies, budget, and so on. The ITU Council meets every year, normally the second quarter, and that after the meeting of all the advisory group for every sector. The composition of the council for this period 1922 is by regions. There are a number of seats according to the region. Region A, Americas; B, Western Europe; Region C, Eastern Europe and Northern Asia; D, Africa; E, Asia. Please be something very important. Tomorrow, when we are going to explain the radio regulation, we are going also to talk about regions. So there's no, it's absolutely different. The regions are defined on the radio regulation for the, with the purpose of splitting the different manners to coordinate the spectrum with this administrative region. That is the composition of the administrative regions for the representativeness on the council. For the region A, the current region A, Americas, the current members are Argentina, Bahamas, Brazil, Canada, Cuba, El Salvador, Mexico, Paraguay, and United States. What we do, then we have three sectors: ITU standardization, establishing global standard; ITU development, my colleague later on is going to further explain; and our sector is ITU radio communication, to coordinate radio frequency spectrum and assigning of orbital slot for satellites. Then some brief presentation about ITT standardization. Key role: defining operation and interoperability of technologies that underpin the global communication network. They have, at this moment, more than 300 new global standards approved every year, with more than 4,000 in use. And they provide standards enabled to the global communication by ensuring ICT networks and devices speak the same language globally. So now the major achievement: the public key infrastructure central to e-commerce, the recommendation related to GFAS, new broadband standard designed to deliver speed access higher than 1 gigabit per second. They have they have been the winner of several Emmy Awards related to video codec, in particular the generation of H265 recommendation and further versions. They are ruled by the World Telecommunication Standardization Assembly that is also organized every 4 years. This year will be that preside the World Telecommunication Assembly. And they draft up the ITT plan and establish the ITT study group and approve top priority question and the work program. I2D, I'm going to skip. I let that to my colleague Isvan to further explain it. And a very brief vision of the I2R. Our key role is to ensure the interference-free through the implementation and the efficient and timely update of the radio regulation and regional agreements, and through the process of the World and Regional Radio Conference. Their role includes developing and updating international regulation on the use of spectrum and satellite orbits, in particular the radio regulations, but as well as other regional agreements, applying these regulations, managing and updating the International Frequency Register. My colleagues in the next days, I'm going to explain in full detail how does it work. Developing and adopting standards and best practices on the use of spectrum and satellite orbits, and disseminating information on this regulation as the standards and best practices. That's precisely one of the key targets at the goal of this seminar. Some of the major achievements, I'm going to skip that. This is the history of I2R regulation. We are going to better explain that tomorrow. So our role and mission is we play a vital role on the global management of the radio frequency spectrum and satellite orbits, by managing the limited natural resource that are increasing in demand from a large and growing number of services. We shall guarantee the rational, equitable, efficient, and economical use of the radio frequency spectrum by our radio communication services. But as you could figure out, doing at the same time these four different facets is quite complicated because they used to clash each other. Then we need to establish the good balance and trade-off between these among these four different approaches. And we need basically to ensure the interference-free operation of radio communication system. And to do that, we carry out the studies and approve recommendations on radio communication related matters. I have explained that. We are composed by, of course, the 193 states. And in addition to that, we have 274 sector members, 22 associates. It means they being member only for the specific study group. I'm going to describe on the next presentation of study groups. And we have so far the 164 academia. Have in mind the academia, they benefit of particular training on I2R and I2 membership because academia by a fee, they become a member of the three sectors. I call the particular attention on this figure to make a difference about what is I2R and what is the BR, because it's very frequent to have some confusion about it. So the I2R is basically the membership. I mean the member state, the sector members, associate, academia, and this is the main entities, the World Radio Communications Conference, the Radio Communication Assembly defining the activities to be performed by the study groups, and also the activities to be performed by the conference preparatory meeting, I mean preparing the World Radio Conference. We had the Radio Regulation Boards, and we had the Radio Communication Advisory Group. And the BR is the Secretariat Services to support the I2R activities. Then it's led by our director, Mr. Mario Manewis at this time. And the Radio Communication Bureau is organized by the Space Service Department, Terrestrial Service Department, the Study Group Departments, and IAP, Informatic, Administrative, Publication Department. So several times we used to hear on different meetings, why I2R don't do that, why you don't do that, etc., etc. Please have in mind that I2R is all the sector and the membership, and all the decisions related to that, basically on the spectrum, will be taken during the World Radio Communications Conference to revise the radio regulation. We as Secretariat, we cannot perform many of these activities. We must be full compliant on the radio regulation and all these their provisions. Then it's not up to the Radio Communication Bureau to make the modification, for example, the radio regulations. So it's important to have clear that I2R is the whole sector. We as BR provide the Secretariat service. This is basically the cycle of the radio communication sector and the relationship between all these entities. So we had the World Radio Communications Conference, the director and the departments. We perform the technical examinations of all the filings and decide first verifying the full compliance with the radio regulation before registering that on the MIFR. We have the radio regulations, we have the radio advisory group, we have the radio regulatory board. As they are working, they have in session this week. Very rapid about the World Radio Conference is the World Radio Conference performs a complete and detailed review of the radio regulations by considering technological development of the communication sector. its realities and challenges, and to respond early and appropriate to this challenge. In that sense, the RRC has the authority, among other things, to modify the radio regulation and consider any radio communication matter of worldwide character, develop instructions to the board and the BR, determine uses considered by the radio assembly and study group, part of the preparatory activities for the next WRCs, and set the agenda of the next WRC and subsequent draft. It's very important at this point, the only entity allowed to modify the radio regulation is the World Radio Conference. And we try to work in a consensus basis, develop and maintain by consensus a sustainable ecosystem for radio communication and about massive disruption. Only if necessary, we are going to vote, but we privilege as much as possible the consensus. Unfortunately, it was the situation in almost all the conference. As long as we remember, we have only one situation in the last 20 years requiring a vote. Radio Communication Assembly is the space to define the activities to be performed by the study groups. Then it assigns the conference preparatory work and other questions to the study group, respond to other requests for IT conference, suggest suitable topic for the agenda of future WRCs, and they approve and issue the I2R recommendation, question, and other publication that we're going to detail on the next presentation, and set the program for the study group and disband or establish new study group if necessary. The radio communication assemblies are responsible for the structure, program, and approval of radio communication studies. They are convened every 4 years in association on time and place with the WRC. It means they are organized the week before. Then the last radio assembly in 2019 was held in, from 21st to 25 October, the week before the World Radio Communication Assembly. And the next Radio Assembly 23, will be organized the week before the next World Radio Conference. We have the Radio Communication Advisory Group. They review the priorities and strategies adopted in the sector, monitor the progress of the work of the study groups, provide guidance for the work of the study group, recommend measures to foster the cooperation, coordination with other organizations and with the other ITU sectors, and provide advice on this matter to the director on the Radio Communication Bureau. The RAC meets every year, normally 2 or 3 days, around April, May, anyhow before the council, and is open to all the I2R members. The RAC is an advisory committee, then they provide recommendations. Then these recommendations are submitted to consideration of the council, and the council could decide if they adopt or not. Normally they do it because are the same countries, but basically please have in mind that the RAC is an advisory committee, not the decision maker. We have the Radio Regulation Board. They approve the rule of procedure. Tomorrow we are going to explain that it's something that is very important associated to the radio regulation. Which use the I2R to implement the provision of the radio regulation, registering the frequency assignments, consider matters referred by the BR that BR cannot be solved by applying the radio regulation, broad research reports of resolving interference by BR application of 1 or more treatments, and make recommendations, advise the WRCs and the radio assemblies, and consider appeals against decisions taken by the BR regarding frequency assignment. Is confirmed by 12 members that are elected during the PP, and they perform their functions independently and non-permanent basis. They meet normally 3 to 4 times at Geneva. At this very moment, they are in sessions. The composition is also distributed by administrative regions. There are 12 members for Americas. There are 2 representatives, Mrs. Chantal Baumier from Canada and Mr. Fernando Borjón Figueroa from Mexico. And now we have the Radio Communication Bureau. It's headed by our elected director, Mr. Mario Manewis, in function from January for this current period, January 2019 to December 22. The The VR duties, administrative and technical support to all the entities of the I2R, in WRCs, radio assemblies, study groups, and working parts, apply the provision of the radio regulation and regional agreements, manage the International Master of International Frequencies register, and coordinate the preparation of circular documents and publications. I'm going to skip that because on the next presentation, we are going to provide all the details about the study groups. Then we have the Space Service Department, who is responsible for coordination and recording the procedure for space systems and Earth stations. My colleague from Space Service will provide further detail on their session Wednesday. And we have the Department of Terrestrial Services, responsible for regulatory and technical functions, terrestrial plans, broadcasting, administrative and operational, and handling harmony interference situations. My colleague for terrestrial services will make also their presentation Wednesday. We have this department that is to support all these activities, the Informatic, Administrative, Publication Department, responsible for I2R publication, website development, membership and outreach. And we have this kind of activities, the World and Regional Radio Seminars. Normally we organize that as an intra-WRC cycle because one of the main objectives is to disseminate the modification and the update of the radio regulations. During this 4-year period, normally we organize 2 biennial seminars, the World Radio Seminars. One, in this case, will be in December 2020, and the next one will be in December 22. And we organize 11 regional seminars visiting all regions and sub-regions worldwide. Well, this is my part about the basic concept of ITU and I2R. I like then to give the floor now to my colleague Isvan Wosowski, who is going to make the presentation about the I2D. And before we could go to the question and answers part. Please, Isvan, floor is yours.
Isvan, just before you start, let me just make mention to the attendees, because now we have over 200 attendees and they might not have heard the initial announcement. You can enter your questions for any of the speakers by using the Q&A feature of Zoom. We have a Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom window. We ask that you click the Q&A button and post your questions there in writing, and we will get around to answering them at the appropriate time. So if you have any questions so far from this first part of the presentation by Joaquin, you can enter them in the Q&A even now. Thank you. So I'll move to Isvan now.
Hi, so good afternoon to everybody. And I hope that you can see my screen as usual. Nigel, can you see?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I will have a few words about the ITUD, about the development sector. I will not be very detailed, but my purpose is to give you some overview on our activities, because now, as Joaquin mentioned also in the BR, we have new top management and we have also new director in the development sector. This is Dorin Bogdan, also starting from the beginning of last year. And now we are working on our operational plan, action plan based on the result-based management. And I hope I can go, yeah. So the key role of the ITUD is to advance the digital transformations through meaningful connectivity. We have several thematic priorities which are linked to this main goal. The first, which is the most important for spectrum management issues, this is the networks and digital infrastructure. The objectives that we want to provide reliable connectivity to everyone. And the key focus areas are the connectivity. This includes infrastructure development and sharing, providing access to internet, connecting rural and remote areas, products and services on telecommunications and bridging the digital standardization gap with development C&I labs, mutual recognition agreements, and so on. And the spectrum management and broadcasting is also under this thematic priority. The next one is the cybersecurity. Of course, for the digital technologies, it's very important, the cybersecurity, especially if you are speaking about the...
Istvan?
Yes?
Istvan, if I could interrupt for a second. Sometimes your voice, we are losing your voice. I'm not sure if it's a connectivity thing or if you're sometimes moving away from the mic or dropping your voice.
Yes, maybe I'm trying to come back closer to the microphone.
Yes, so stay close. Okay, thanks.
But as you mentioned, Nigel, the most important part of our networks and infrastructure is the connectivity. So I have to work a little bit better in this case. So here in the cybersecurity, the objective is creating a trusted cyberspace for all. So with this, we equip the beneficiary countries, the national incident response capability. Also, we enhance the national cybersecurity posture and facilitate international commitment on cybersecurity. The next one is the emergency telecommunication. This is very important for your region. And as Joaquin already mentioned, that there will be a special part on emergency telecommunications. The objective is to build disaster resilient ICT infrastructure for reduce loss of lives and economic damages. So we have the countries for the multi-hazard early warning systems, define the risk what the country region faces, and provide IC2 connectivity. So in the networks thematic priority, we work very close with the emergency telecommunications, especially on the connectivity and maps issues. The policy and regulation, the objective is supporting collaborative policy and regulatory frameworks for digital market development and user well-being. And we are working also with the RME, with this division very closely because of the policy and regulation for spectrum management. We create and manage high-level exchange platform on ICT policy, create and manage ICT policy and regulation data and knowledge platform, and also support the development and strengthening of ICT policy and regulatory frameworks. And all of the subjects what I'm mentioning contains some capacity building activities. The digital innovation ecosystem. This is for accelerating innovation ecosystem for digital transformation, fostering innovation, entrepreneurship, ecosystem building, and nurture of a culture of innovation. The capacity development, as I mentioned to you before, that all the thematic priority has close connection with capacity building. I think enough if I mention in the spectrum management training program, and also especially from the region in Central Americas region, we are working on the C&I training program. Here we are building the digital competence society, delivering online face-to-face training programs, maintaining the ITU Academy portal, which contains a lot of presentations and trainings, especially on spectrum again, development of knowledge resources and learning content in the field of digital skills. Statistics. Now we are using the different statistics in improving our activities and our works and to the different countries, and this is helping us to reach higher level impact in our work. This is helping countries with evidence-based ICT policy adoption for digital inclusive society. Part of the work is ICT statistics. Also, we provide high quality data on the digital economy and society and working on data analysis and research reports. The digital services and applications, we are creating transformative digital strategies and application services. We support development of national strategic planning frameworks, deploy digital services to harness ICTs, and mainstreaming ICTs for SDGs. The digital inclusion is building inclusive policies for equal ICT access, promote the inclusiveness and accessibility of ICTs. And there are the projects for which we have the topics related to persons with disabilities and older persons, indigenous peoples and people living in remote areas, women and girls, youth and children. And we provide not only just training and direct capacity building, but also provide advice and assistance. The environment, this is a little bit linked to the emergency issues because it's the same division who is dealing with the environment issues. The objective is creating a circular economy for ICT equipment, and the key focus areas, the data collection and statistics, national e-waste management policy, and promote circular ICT equipment. There we have some special projects. One of them is the Girls Can Code initiative. The objective is to expose young women to and equip them with digital literacy, coding, personal and entrepreneurial development skills. And the GIGA project, I'm sure that you heard about this because we are very active, especially in the Caribbean region also. The objectives is in partnership with UNICEF, connect every school to the internet and every young person to information, choice and opportunity. We have the key focus areas. This is the Project Connect, which will map the locations of every school in the world and identify the gaps and information needs. Common bit for school connectivity, which will use the information from Project Connect. Project Connect also using the last mile connectivity toolkit that we are developing. And also we have the broadband map. Later I will speak about it in the second session. And also we have the digital public goods, which will develop a storefront of open source digital public goods for countries. The current regions and countries, as I mentioned to you, we have some countries for which we are very well advanced, and especially they are also in the Eastern Caribbean region and Africa, Central Asia. The project is global, but in some parts we are well ahead. ITU's regional presence, it's easy to present because Joaquin already spoke about it, about the 6th region. He presented already this diagram. Here you can find also the presence of the different regions and the relevant persons and contacts. So I don't want to speak too much about it. I just want to mention that also in the European unit has a headquarters in Geneva, and we have also a unit in New York. So, and you saw also this picture from Joaquin, so I wish to stop my presentation, and I will have some words later about the ITUD study groups and also some spectrum management activities. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, Sven, thank you. We did note that there was some audio difficulties, like the microphone the volume dropped very low periodically and kind of continually through your discussion. So there might have been parts that people missed slightly, but I suppose with the slides, they would be able to understand. I saw a comment from someone that from more than one person about the audio fading and coming on. And we do have some, we do have some questions coming in. Three questions have come in. Joaquin, would you want to do the questions now, or?
Yes.
Yes, you would.
So the first question is for Sven. The question is, the ITUD programs, are they linked to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals?
Yeah,
so
can you hear me now better?
Yes.
Yes, sounding good.
Yeah, because now I switched to earphone, because before my computer was working better, but now no problem. Of course, the ITUD programs are linked to all the 17 SDGs. If you look, for example, or study group website, you can find that which study groups are related to which SDGs. Also, you can see that for each thematic priorities, they are linked to which SDGs. Of course, not all of them are linked to everything, but there are a lot of activities which are involved in a lot of SDGs. And also, if you look at our website of the study group, you can see also that what are the business action lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Svan. We have a second question to you and me. It's about what is the separation of work between the ITU sector, BDT, and BR to assist the regional and area ITU office in the CIS region? If you allow me, I'm going to first respond. Precisely what we like is not having any separation. We like to act as one ITU. Then BDT, they take care of all the lead activities in technical assistance, but when the technical assistance or capacity building or something related to it is concerning spectrum management topics, they ask to BR to provide the technical knowledge and technical support for it. Then we work in a coordinated manner, and that through BDT with all the regions and area office. Isvan, if you have something to complement, please.
Yeah, because even when you listen to the presentation of Mario, he hasn't mentioned separately that we have also the ITUD activities because we have one ITU. So we are working together on the assistance to the countries, and as Joaquin mentioned, that like this seminar was developed, that we did it together also with the ITU regional and Carib office. So I don't think that I have to add something more.
Just to chime in, that question was from Aim Mazar from ATDI. And the previous question was from Sydney DeWeaver from St. Martin in the Caribbean. Sydney also asked, what are your thoughts about making ICT and broadband access the 18th Sustainable Development Goal? If you have any.
Well, this is quite complicated questions. First, you must have in mind that this Sustainable Development Goal is something created by United Nations and led by them. We are part of the United Nations system, and we have explained it. My personal view, this is something very personal, is we must have in mind that ICT is basically something transversal. I mean, the goal itself is not having necessary connectivity. The goal is through the connectivity, access to health, access to education in remote area, and so on. So that's why, as you could see in our IT strategy plan, we are linking how we are going to contribute to all these 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Then, in my view, is a positive approach. Maybe it's not necessary having that as 18, because the important itself is not how we are going to develop and expand the ICT infrastructure and services, etc., but how these ICT services and platforms will support and will foster to achieve the other 17 goals that is really related to the human welfare. Isvan, you have something additional?
No, I completely agree with you, because if you look at the SDGs, you can see that where is the role of the ICT and broadband access for implementing the SDGs. In addition, what I mentioned, that we are working on the connectivity, and connectivity is important for all the SDGs. So I think that it's not necessary to have just the 18th SDG for this. We are implementing it for all the SDGs.
There's one more question I guess it would go to Istvan from Andres.
Yeah, it's from
Adam.
Andres.
Yes. Where can you find more information about the ITUD objectives and projects?
Yeah, but Andres, first, the ITU objectives are included already in the final document of the WTDC, because WTDC is deciding for each 4 years about the objectives. And then also we have the database for projects. So you can find it also on our website.
Istvan, because I don't see more questions and we have still time, maybe you could take the occasion, and I do similarly, to share with participants how it's organized or respective websites, indicating where they could find out and download all these documents, reports, etc., etc.
Yeah, I'm just going to the website. But I want to add that our website is under development. So we have development sector and the website is under development. Because here on the, oh, sorry, maybe I have to share.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. Share the screen. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can.
So here on the right-hand side, you can see the thematic priorities. This is what I presented to you in my presentation. So you can find more detailed information on all the capacity, all thematic priorities, like I mentioned, the networks and digital infrastructure. So you can find several information here. And especially here, we have the priority areas, and you can see broadcasting, spectrum management, conformity and interoperability, NGN, broadband networks, rural communications, connectivity is under development at this moment. And here you can find also the different documents. I'm sure that from the region you are very familiar with the digital switchover database, so I will have a few words about this on my presentation. And I'm just trying to go back. So this is the structure. We can have here the toolbox, accessibility, publications, online tools and databases. Here is the ITU Academy, digital transition, broadband maps. And here are the project portfolio portal. This is what Andres was asking about. And if you go to each thematic priority, for each thematic priority, you can find the list of the projects. And here you can see that you can browse the projects. I hope that this is replying the question of Andres. Okay, so this is for me. Joaquin, you wanted to have something more? Are you here?
Joaquin, if you're speaking, we are not hearing you.
I can hear you. Then please, Istvan, could you stop sharing your screen? I'm going to share mine to show now. So I guess you have now on your screen the main ITU website. Is that correct?
Yes, we're seeing it.
Okay. So this is our main website, itu.int. You have these main tabs, ITU, General Secretariat. Then you have the division by sectors, radio communication, standardization, development, was just shown by Istvan, and something about ITU Telecom, and something about members on, members on, you find out all the information of membership, states, sectors, and so on. Then you could click here on radio communication and you go to the main website of the ITR sector. You go below and no, first in this site, you find out all the entities I had just explained it, the World Radio Communication Conference. Very soon we are going to launch from this link the new site for the WRC23. All the information about Radio Communication Assembly, Regional Conference, Radio Regulatory Board, Radio Regulation Board, Radio Communication Study Groups, and Radio Communication Advisory Group. Then you have the pertinent link there. On the information I provided on the pre-web seminar, you find free resources. There's a PDF booklet, and also a flyer really, when you have all the free publications and documents and database you could access with the pertinent link. It's something that is also summarized here. You have also information about events, conference, seminar, and workshops. And in the lower part, you have the information about the different departments, space services, terrestrial services, radio communication study groups, and you have here the radio regulations.
Joaquin, how soon do you think the updated radio regulations?
We are going to explain that tomorrow, but it's updated every radio conference because the only entity authorized to modify the radio regulation is the World Radio Conference that is held every 4 years.
Yes, but I mean, we had WRC 19.
Yeah.
We have seen the final acts, but normally those are used.
Yeah.
Regulation.
You are a little in advance. We are going to explain that tomorrow, but precisely at this very moment, we are preparing the new edition of the Radio Regulation Edition 2020, containing all the modification and updates decided by the last conference. Tomorrow I will provide a further detail on it.
Okay, good.
Here on radio communication, you have this tab of publications, and you could access directly to the different publications we have: general publication, regulatory publications, conference, all the products from the study groups, recommendation, report, handbooks, opinions, questions, resolutions, and also software of databases. Or you could access directly from the space services. Sorry, from the radio communication study groups. You could also access to the different composition. You have here all the information of the study groups. And on the next presentation, we are going to explain a little about a tool we have to easy the manner to research and find out the different recommendation or report from ITR sector according to the specific topic. So we invite you to visit the permanent website and especially these publications, because all these products are free of charge and are open to general public.
Okay. We had a comment and a question come in. Sydney DeWeaver, who asked about maybe connectivity as an additional goal. He's commented that he believes you're correct that ICT is used as a tool to achieve the 17 SDGs, but he's thinking that if only half the world is connected, then it wouldn't be effective for the other half, you know? So I don't know if you all want to make any comment on that.
Yeah, but this is Istvan.
Yes.
So, of course, we agree with this, and this is what we want to reach, that since 50% of the population is not connected, this is what we want to increase. That's why this project with the UNICEF, the Connect the School, is very important, because I think that if we can connect the school, then we can connect also the area around. And there was another question I see now, that this result-based management, we have this BT systematic priorities, which is showing the theory of change impact pathway for the network and digital infrastructure. If you wish, I can show you on my screen that how is it looking like, what we are planning to do within these activities. Maybe it can explain a little bit better.
Yes, if we have time. I guess we have time. Joaquin, do we have time?
Yes, we have still 18 minutes because this session is up to
15 minutes.
until 10:30 Caribbean time.
Yes.
Before the break. Yes.
Okay.
And I have more and I have more time since on my vacation. So this is what we are working on it, just to make a little bit clearer that what we want to reach and what will be the impact of our work. As I mentioned, that the impact for our work is the reliable connectivity to everyone when I presented the thematic priority. And here you can see three impact pathways. The upper part is the connectivity. So here we want to have the increased access and usage of connectivity by citizens. For this, we want to increase the knowledge of gaps, opportunities, and solutions of connectivity to professionals. Also increase access to and use of innovative technical, business, and financial solutions. Also financial and/or technical agreements established. Here are the reach that who do we want to reach with this, because of course with this work we cannot reach directly the public, but we can assist the governments, ICT professionals, UN agencies who can work then in the regions. These are the outputs what we can provide, deliverables like guidelines, workshops, map, and here are the activities what we are doing or planning to do. The next one is the adoption of modern ICT infrastructure, including advanced spectrum management techniques based on international ICT standards by government bodies. And one of them is the spectrum management and broadcasting. As I mentioned, that it's included in our thematic priority and in our division. We want to reach the professionals responsible for spectrum management and broadcasting. These are the similar type of deliverables and some of the other issues, the tools to manage spectrum efficiently, innovative and emerging solutions for spectrum management and master plans, roadmaps on spectrum management and broadcasting. Also here are the activities. And then the other one is on the third impact pathway is the modern infrastructure, broadband and modern infrastructure. So this is also an important part of our activities. Also, we want to reach the professionals again, the ICT stakeholders dealing with broadband networks, rural communication, IPv6 conformance and interoperability. And this broadband infrastructure contains the guidelines on emerging technologies, development of rural communication networks, strategies for NGN, IPv-based networks. Also, we have the roadmaps for conformance and interoperability. And for connectivity, I forgot to mention, but it's also an important part, the map for infrastructure gaps of opportunities. So we are collecting also information on the infrastructure to see that where are the gaps, what we can improve. So this is the part what I wanted to show you in this. But if I'm going a little bit up, because there was a question from the colleague that what about if we have the just 50% reached? And you see this is the challenge number 3. That currently there are only 4.1 billion people of, or 53.6% of population connected, and LDCs, least development countries, are the least connected with only 19.1% of the population connected, mostly in Africa and South Asia. That's why we are planning to work, we are working on these 3 impact pathways, the connectivity and spectrum management and modern ICT infrastructure. So this was a quick summary on our activities. I hope that it's replying the question. Thank you.
Yes, I think it is. Joaquin, over to you.
No, Isvan has very well explained it. Thanks, Isvan.
All right, we are a little early. This scheduled break was at 10:30. I'm not seeing any other questions at present. So, Oh, there is one. Yes. Oh,
I used it.
yeah.
So I used this question also, this RBM question, and it seems to me that I could explain
Yes.
to the.
So,
Yeah.
Sydney was happy with your explanation, which is good.
And now I'm also happy.
Yes. I'm seeing, we are looking at the comments. There's a comment in the chat now from, I think it was Haim. Read the question of Nigel. Following the WRC 19 and publication of the final acts by BR, the RRB should approve this week the radio regulations 2020. Maybe they're giving information rather than asking a question. I don't know if Joaquin has any idea.
Yes, please be very, very carefully about it, because the modifications at the decision, etc., related to the new radio regulation were decided by the WRC 19. Yeah. What we need to do is something like an editorial review, something like that. Then yes. It means being absolutely sure that the newest version of the radio regulation contains in a very clear and precise manner each and every of these decisions. But it's not that the RB is going to object or modify any of these decisions. It's just an editorial review, being sure that what we are going to publish actually reflects each of these decisions taken during the WRC 19. And then we produce, of course, the first version in English, and later on we go ahead with the translation to the other 5 United Nations languages.
All right. Joaquin, right now, I would suggest then that we can go to the break and,
yes.
And resume at the scheduled time of 10:45 a.m. Eastern Caribbean time, which is in about 25 minutes.
Or if people agree, or participants agree, we could start a little earlier. In that manner, we could also end a little earlier, as you prefer.
Ah, okay. Instead of 12:15, we might be able to end at 12. Okay, let's do that, because
so maybe we could start in 10 minutes.
Agreed. So at least we could have one person who agreed. Okay, so we're getting chat comments that people agree with maybe starting earlier and ending earlier.
So if all participants agree, we could start in 10 minutes. It means at it would be 10:30 Caribbean time.
Caribbean time.
And in that manner, we are going to end at noon.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Okay, so see you in 10 minutes?
Yes, in 10 minutes. So we'll take a short break now for comfort. All right, we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Over to you. You might be muted though, because we're not hearing you.
Do you hear me? Hello?
Yes, Joaquin, you're coming through.
Do you hear me?
Yes, no, we hear you now, Joaquin.
I'm sorry, it was my fault.
Did you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, give me a minute. Now start sharing. Now, do you have on your screen the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Then now I'm going to make a description about the composition and activities and publication from the I2R study groups and their associated working parties.
Okay.
So we had explained it. We have these different documents, the I2U Constitution and Convention issued from the Plenipotentiary Conference, also named the basic text of the Union with the high-level principles. Then we have, for the specific spectrum management, the radio regulation and other multilateral agreements that are discussed on the World Radio Conference. It could be also revised in a regional conference, and for their particular application, it could be reviewed by the regulatory board. Something important, I'm going to discuss tomorrow, associated to the radio regulation, you have the rule of procedures. It contains the rights of obligations, stable frequencies, and so on. And then, as a part of the products of the sector, we have also the I2R resolutions and recommendations. The I2R resolution are decided by the Radio Assembly, and we have the I2R report, handbook, software recommendation are decided by the study groups. The I2R study groups develop the technical basis for decisions taken at RRCs and the global standard recommendation report and handbooks. We gather more than 5,000 specialists from the I2R member state, sector and associates and academia. We had 6 study groups composed by 21 working parties. The working parties meets yearly according to the agenda. In some case, some working parties could have 2 or even 3 meetings per year. Normally they meet at Geneva, but of course, if some country wish to hold one of these events, they could contact us and we could organize it. And the study group meets yearly, normally, precisely after all the sessions of the working party. Then they gather all the information from their pertinent working party to discuss at the level of a study group. Currently, we need to update that. We have 1,871 recommendations. Let me see here, 561 reports in force, and also 42 handbooks. The I2R publication and resolutions can be downloaded free. Then the first part is important to have that the study they perform a double function. From one side, they prepare all the documents related to the standards for the sectors, as could be the recommendations and supporting documents, reports and handbooks. And on the other hand, they provide the necessary technical studies to support the WRC agenda. Then, basic, as you know, one of the most important points to be discussed during every World Radio Conference is new allocations. But new allocations, it means new service in existing allocation, because actually the spectrum is already allocated to all the services, except on the very high part that is reserved for future services. In every part you find already some services at primary or secondary level. Then when a given service pretend to also share this spectrum, well, ideally, in theoretical, mathematical point of view, always is possible, but the point is that these mathematical values will be compatible, will be realistic vis-a-vis the state of the technology to actually provide the services. Then the necessary studies on how to share the spectrum for this new pretended location are performed by these study groups in a particular meetings we are going to discuss tomorrow about the CPMs. Then the current study group, I had a little problem here. Yeah, we have a study group 1, that is spectrum management, composed by 3 working parties. Working party 1A, spectrum engineering techniques, meaning all the technical aspect of the spectrum management. Working party 1B, spectrum management methodologies and economic strategies, or related to financial and economic issues. And working party 1C, related to spectrum monitoring. This is the most visited study group with the largest participation in terms of entities or administrations. We have then the study group 3. Before you ask, there's no study group 2. Why? On the past, in some time there was a study group 2, but it was disbanded because their topic was distributed among the other study group, and to avoid any confusion, we don't repeat that. That's why we skip from 1 to 3. Then we had the study group 3, composed by 4 study groups. Is study group 3, the radio wave propagation. This is a very, very important study group. If you ask any engineering student, maybe in the last 2 years, what is ITU? Maybe they are not familiar with the institution, they are not familiar with the organization and so on. But they used to very familiar with recommendation. They know, for example, that the rain fading is defined in the I2RP, etc., etc. Then the very first contact I used to have the students on engineering with I2R is through the use of this recommendation, because this propagation recommendation have become the universal model for all the software tool, and also for the analysis when you are going to determine the interference level between stations or be in the same country, different country, to have a neutral reference with the use these models. So this is a very, very important study group. And it's classified in 4 working parties: propagation fundamental, 3J, working party 3K, point-to-point propagation, 3L, ionospheric propagation and radio noise, 3N, point-to-point and aerospace propagation. Again, why there's no the other letter A, B, C, etc. on the past there were, and it was disbanded and reorganized. The study group 4 is for satellite services. Then we have 4A, efficient orbit satellite utilization for fixed satellite services and broadcasting satellite services. Then I skip to working party 4C. As you see, exactly the same scope, but for a different services. So then all related to a spectrum orbit resource for fixed and broadcasting satellite service are within 4A, while the other services by satellite, mobile satellite, and radio determination satellite services are handled by 4C. And we have the 4B is related to system air interference, performance, and ability objective for all the satellite services. Then we had the study group 5. I'm sorry, I had a little problem here when doing that. We have working. We have 4 working parties. Working party A, land mobile, above 30 megahertz, fixed was amateur satellite service. Working party 5B, maritime, aeronautical, mobile services. Working party 5C, high frequencies, another system below 30 megahertz. And actually the complete name of 5A is land mobile, etc., excluding, and we say excluding IMT. And IMT is excluded because there is a specific group to discuss the working party in 5D. The working party with the largest number of participants in terms of persons, not entities, is the working party 5D. They had just met last week. They have finished one of the annual meeting, and of course, you know, the discussion are more and more interesting to go ahead on the definition of the 5G standards. Then we had the study group 6, broadcasting, having these 3 working parties and a new task group that is related to a specific agenda item. Then this study group is incidental. It will valid until the next conference. After that conference, we are going to delete that, but maybe we need to create another task group according to the agenda. Then we have 6A, terrestrial broadcasting delivery, 6B, broadcasting services, assembly and access, 6C, program production and quality assessment. And then we have last but not least, the scientific groups, study group 7, science services, with also 4 working parties, time signal and frequency standard emission. This group was very relevant. Maybe you had heard about the leap second. All the discussion related to the leap second was made within this study working party. Working party 5B, space radiocommunication application, space operation, space research exploration, meteorological satellite services. Working party 7C, remote sensing system, active and passive. It means, for example, radars, or only taking image and retransmitting that to radio frequencies, air exploration satellite, meteorological edge, space research services. And working party 7D, radio astronomy. And we have
Joaquin?
complement, sorry, yes.
Yes, Joaquin. Before you leave this slide, there is a question about it from Vladimir Daigle. Is there an ITUR study group or working party taking care of type approval of wireless ICT devices?
All related to that, it will be conducted on maybe this working party via land mobile, fixed wireless access services here, amateur and amateur satellite. So frequencies all related to land and mobile, and frequencies above 30 megahertz will be taken here in 5A.
Okay.
May I add something? This is Istvan.
Yes.
Yes, please.
I think maybe Working Party 1C is also involved in this activity, because Working Party 1C is monitoring, but also the measurement. So I think type approval is also included. I'm not 99% sure, but I'm sure that they are there.
Yes, because spectrum monitoring is devoted to all the different services through the whole radioelectric spectrum.
Okay.
Then we have discussed this slide, and is the contributions of the ITUR study group. Later on, I'm going to present something about the process for preparing a world radio conference, and then give you more detail about the CPN activities. I'm sorry here. We have said the Radio Communication Assembly is the entity responsible of defining the activities, the composition of the study groups, is organized the week before the World Radio Conference. The last one then was held from 21st to 25 October 2019 in Sharm el-Sheikh. More than 500 participants from more than 90 ITU member states, as well about around 50 ITUR sector members. The decision were they maintained the ITUR structure with 6 study groups and the respective working parties. They approved the program of World of Questions and working methods, approved 23 revised ITUR resolutions and new ITUR resolution, basic on broadcasting, and they approved 5 ITUR recommendations, including one on frequency arrangement for terrestrial IMT. Let's see a little detail about the ITUR study group. By the way, on the material we have provided on the seminar web tutorial, there's a complete booklet of the ITUR study groups. Then we had the ITUR study group 1, scope, spectrum management, principle and technical, general principle of sharing spectrum monitoring, long-term strategy for spectrum utilization, economic approaches to national spectrum management. We work very closely with BDT about this topic. Istvan could later on complement this issue. Automatic technique and assistance to developing countries in cooperation with the BDT. In addition, inter-service sharing and compatibility, urgent studies by request, included the development or recommendation or reports to the conference preparatory meeting. The structure of explaining the spectrum engineering technique, spectrum management methodologies, and spectrum monitoring. The key topics, if you wish, we are discussing is, for example, wireless power transmission, including for electric vehicle, harmonization of short-range devices, ultra-wide broadband, RFID, performance evaluation of mobile DF units, and we also work in electromagnetic field measurement to assess the human exposure. That includes cooperation both with BDT and TSD, who has in charge that, because strictly this is not on main scope, because the radio regulation related to the use of the spectrum, while for the radio communication service, while here is dealing with the effect on human exposure. Then it was led by TSD, but of course we participate actively. ITUR study group 3. We have point-to-area propagation, ionospheric propagation and radio noise, and point-to-point and airspace propagation. Then we develop the pertinent propagation models. Some point of interest, for example, develop the propagation model for sharing a study between INT and incumbent service in the millimeter wave in response to the agenda of the last radio conference related to the possible allocation, identification of new frequencies band for INT, propagation models in the range of the 275 to 550 gigahertz, as you could see, very, very, very high frequencies for sharing and compatibility study between the land mobile, fixed and passive services, and also propagation models for building entry and loss model for propagation indoor. I2R study group 4, satellite and network for fixed satellite service, mobile, broadcasting, and radio deterministic satellite services. Some of also the key points discussed about the use of frequency band in 17 and 19 gigahertz to space to air and 27, 29 gigahertz air to space by air station in motion. One of the key topics discussed on the last conference. My colleagues from the space sector is going to explain that on the next days. Communication with GEO in the fixed satellite services, technical, operational use and regulatory provision for non-geostationary fixed satellite services. Another key milestone of the last conference was precisely to define the regulatory procedure for registering these non-geo constellations. Also, it will be very well explained by my space colleagues. I2R study group 5. As we had mentioned, here is more clear, excluding IMT, because we have for IMT the specific working party ID. And main products is the detailed investigation and approval of the key elements of the IMT 2020 is still underway. Very soon we are going to publish the result of the last meeting of this working party 5D about how is evolving the definition of a standard and the family of technologies that will comply with the IMT 2020 specifications, the studies about Internet of Things and studying machine-type communications to be connected to IMT networks and dedicated network for short-range devices, intelligent transportation systems, also a key topic on the last conference agenda. I2R developed several outputs on the ITS connectivity and advanced ITS radio communications that are the key enabler of self-driving cars. I2R study group 6, terrestrial broadcasting, broadcasting service assembly, and program production. We have published the new I2 handbook on digital terrestrial television broadcasting and its implementation. We invite to download that because it's free of charge. And I2R study group 7, preserving spectrum for operational development of meteorological application, timely warning of impending natural disaster, accurate climate prediction, the status of global water and bioresources in support of sustainable development goal, precisely when we have asked that. This study group is playing a key role to increase the performance of all these scientific services and application that it has absolutely necessary input in order to comply and measure the evolution of the different topics of climate change, global warming, disaster mitigation, and early warning, as will be explained later by Isvan. And revision in joint manner with the World Meteorological Organization, this handbook, we also invite to download, use of radio spectrum for meteorology. Our main products is the I2R recommendations, reports, and handbook, creating the technical basis for radio conference, as will be on the CPM. Something related to the nomenclature we're using to identify without any confusion and a specific publication of I2R, but also for I2U. Then in every product, first we use the name, the type. We indicate whether we are dealing with a recommendation of a report of a resolution. Then we indicate the sector, I2R, I2D, I2T, then in our case, we have I2R. Then we have the series, I'm going to explain later, basically to define what is the topic of that product. We have dot, and we indicate the year of the publication and score the edition, the version. Then the very first release is the version 0, and every time we revise it and we make an update, then we put a new number 1, 2, 3, etc., etc. And with the parentheses, we put the specific date of release. Related to the version, normally the version .x supersedes the prior one, version x-1. Also something important, we don't repeat the number. Then, if necessary, you could identify an I2 recommendation or report only by the number. But it's important to have this 2 or 1 letter before, so you have first an idea about the specific topic you are looking for. This is the complete list of all we produce. Resolutions, the resolutions are decided by the Radio Assembly. On the document, on the regulatory document we have provided, you find out document naming I2R, Book of I2R Resolutions. The I2R resolutions are resolutions decided by the Radio Assembly. I2R decisions are decided by the study group. I2R questions are decided by the study group and Radio Assembly. And then the common product recommendations, report, handbooks, and opinion. So you could click in any of these links and you go directly to the pertinent site where you could see and download the document. Some comment about the I2R recommendation. Compliance with I2R recommendation is not mandatory. With some specific exceptions as contained on the volume 4 of the radio regulation that we are going to explain tomorrow, where that is so-called recommendations incorporated by reference. But excepting this recommendation incorporated by reference, the I2R recommendations are taken as a voluntary basis. But of course, because they are developed by our team of worldwide experts with very last participation of all involved entities, many countries use this recommendation and they used to adopt or to incorporate with their national legislation. And in that case, will become compulsory, but not because the recommendation itself have this nature, but because of the national decision of doing that. We have, as we have mentioned, I'm going to update that. And it is very positive for us that we are registering around 2 million of downloads per year. So it's showing the big importance of this recommendation worldwide. As explanatory resolution, instruction of the organization method program the study groups, I2R decision as task giving instruction to the organization of the study group. Question is a statement of technical, operational, or procedure study generally seeking a recommendation, report, or handbook. The question is basically the topics that pretend to be handled and resolved in such manner by the pertinent study group. Each question shall indicate in a concise form the reason for the study and specify the scope of the study as precisely as possible. It should also, to the extent practically, include a work program and indicate the form on which response should be prepared. Normally it's through a recommendation. Recommendations, an answer to a question of a set of topics, recommended specification, requirement, data, or guidance for recommended ways of undertaking a specific task, or recommended procedure for a specific application and which is considered to be sufficient to serve as a basis for international cooperation in a given context of the field of radio communications. The report is a technical, operational, or procedural statement prepared by a study group or a given subject. And the handbooks is something like a collection of the state of the art on the different topics, presented the different positions of the studies and a good operator of technical practices. And the I2R opinions is less frequent, but we have, is a text containing a proposal of, or a request destined for another organization, such as the sector or other international organizations. Then this is the nomenclature we're using for the scope for the series. BO is for satellite delivery, BR for recording, production, archival, and playout film for television, BS is for broadcasting services, sound, BT for broadcasting services, television, FIX is for fixed services, M for mobile radio determination, amateur and related satellite services, P for radio wave propagation, RA for radio astronomy, RS for remote sensing and system, S for fixed satellite services, SA space application and meteorology, SF frequency sharing and coordination between fixed satellite and fixed services, SM spectrum management, SNG satellite news gathering, TF signal and frequency standard emission, and B vocabulary and related subject. And here we have the indication who is the study group taking care of every series. As you see, except in this study group 4 and 5, we have this SF that, of course, because of the topic, they need to coordinate between the group 4 and 5, between terrestrial and space. But with this section, every group has in control a specific series of the publications. This is the updated list. We have, I had updated that last week. Then we have so far 1,872 recommendations, 593 reports, and 44 handbooks. And this is the distribution we have per series. This is on to show you the statistic about the downloads. We used to track that to know what are the interests, what are the most visited, and so on. As you see, in the case of recommendation, let's say the bestseller are the propagation series, maybe by the reason we had explained, that is a universal reference for all the software, all the spectrum management software tools, and also for any case of discussion about interference, it's necessary to have this propagation model, followed with the mobile series and broadcasting television. Regarding the I2 reports, the most visited one are the mobile for the reports. And you have also within the document, we have provided this flyer, provided direct access to all the free documents we produce, the I2 regulations, the rule of procedure, agenda of the conference. We are going to update this flyer to provide the link to the OLAC 23. So we invite to visit this website and download the news version of this document, maybe the last quarter of this year, when we are going to update this link, the OLAC documents, and also the product I just mentioned from the study groups, recommendation report, questions, opinions, tenant reference, handbooks, another I2R booklets of interest, and also you have also here the access to the different databases. I'm going to show you a practical example how to make a research. Just give me just a minute. My machine is a little slow. So let's go back to the beginning, our main site, go to radio communication. In this website, sorry, you go down to the radio communication study groups. And you click in this tab related I2R text. And in that part, in the lower part of this tab, you have I2R document search tool. Then this is the main page of this tool. Then you could first select by the topic you like to ask, recommendations, question, report, resolution, or handbooks. Let's click on recommendations, for example. And here you had all the research criteria. Then you could make the research by series. Then you had the list of series we had just mentioned, BO, satellite delivery. When you put on the little tab, you see the specific name, broadcasting sound, series. Let's say, for example, M. Select, okay. Radio category. Then you could find out the different topics, anti-reference pattern, error performance, etc. Sharing compatibility studies, national spectrum management use, spectrum monitoring. Then let's click IMT, for example. Okay. Services. Well, in this case, it will be a little redundant because IMT is a particular application of mobile services. Then by default, he's going to find out, but otherwise, you could here find out the specific name of the service you like to research. You could also make by responsible working parties or cross-reference, or also for the date of approval. Then let's say, for example, we like to see what was published in the last, let's say, in this period. So you click here, you could select a specific year. Then, for example, we would like to see what was published. Then, to the criteria, we are going to look within IM series, IMT, published the last 2 years, excluding this year. And we say apply. Then you have the complete list of publications complying with this criteria. For example, this is the publication aim from mobile, as you see all are from mobile because we have filtered that. 1056, score 6, published in October 2019, frequency harassment for implementation of the terrestrial component of IMT in the bands identified for IMT in the radio regulations. We have this publication updated in January 2000 last year. The M1457 scorecard 14, I mean the 14 revision, detailed specification of INT 2000. We have this, the M 2012 version 4, published in November the last year, detailed specification of terrestrial interface for IMT. If you click there, you could go directly to the document. And you have on the available in a relation language. Please, in some time, you need a little patience because we first released the recommendation in English, and then we proceed the year after to produce the other 5 languages. Now, if you prefer to glance directly all the recommendation instead of using the research tool, you could go directly to our website again. Go to RADIOCOMMUNICATION. You go for, I'm going to enter directly from publications, and I'm going, for example, for I2R recommendations. And here, I have individual recommendation for direct download. Then again, I have classified by series. Then I go to click, I go, for example, again to M. And I have here all the history, all the recommendations from series M. And we have the respective note when the recommendation has been suppressed, for example. Let's have something seldom. This is, for example, the version 2 of our recommendation, method for computation. And the support, I don't see the other one. That's version 0. Let me look for some recommendation having several revisions. Here, for example, as you see, you have all the list of the version, system versions. You have the version 0, so the very first publication of this recommendation was made in January 2008, and we updated that 1 year later. We have then score 1 with the version in June 2009, and as indicated here, that's for historical purposes. If ever you like to see what was contained on the prior version, you could do it, but we indicate very clear here that is supersede, and we indicate here that this is the recommendation in force. Tomorrow I'm going to explain how we identify also here when the recommendation is incorporated by reference on the radio regulations. Let me now get back to some part I missed.
You have 2 questions.
Yes, please go ahead. Then, before going to talk about the World Radio Conference process. Let me see the questions.
Jose Martinez from A&E Columbia is asking whether study group 1 is working on an update to the handbook of spectrum monitoring.
I'm not quite sure. Tomorrow I will give you the specific answer what is going on about updating this handbook. But what is for sure that there's several activities in progress about it, about the spectrum monitoring, revisions of recommendation, and so on. But if there's a specific revision of the handbook of monitoring spectrum, I'm not quite sure, but tomorrow I will confirm it. Okay. Second question, in which study group the spectrum losses sharing between land mobile and satellite service is addressed? Normally, it should be discussed on the study group. We have defined the study a serious recommendation related to sharing services. Then, in that case, it must be coordinated both for the satellite study group and the space, the satellite services study group and terrestrial study group, maybe the working party ID, they need to work together. And in that case, they must prepare together. Let me revisit the slides. This one. What do I have now? No, it's not this one.
Number 4.
And let me check what do I have here. I will have explained it. We have this series, SF, frequency sharing and coordination between fixed satellite and fixed services. Then all related to fixed services is coordinated between the group 5 and 4. But for mobile application, it will be something similar. There's no specific series of recommendation for that, but both those groups need to work together to define and discuss all related to the level of interference that could be accepted for them.
Okay.
Okay, now I'd like to make a rapid presentation about the main concept of the World Radio Conference, because the specific results, outcomes of the last WRC 19, as well as the agenda of the next conference, will be discussed and duly presented by my colleague from Terrestrial and Space Services tomorrow. Just to remember that within the documents we have provided, there's for informative purposes, there's a document containing the description, the detail of the agenda item of the next conference and the draft agenda of the conference 2027. Then we have displayed the WRC performed a complete and detailed revision of the radio regulation and the rules of procedures to do the necessary updates considering the technological development of spectrum radio and sector realities. They had authority to modify the radio regulation. What the main purposes: create a regulatory certainty for a multi-trillion-dollar industry that can provide radio communication basic services to billions of people in all countries worldwide. Then we play a key role on the development of new societies. We try to strike the right balance between the spectrum requirement of our radio communication services. We need to create a certainty about this use of the spectrum, then providing necessary stability in long term. That's why we need to work on consensus. But of course, reaching the consensus requires time, efforts, and patience, and basically that's the price to pay for that. Then sometimes people could blame some people that maybe WRCs are too slow, but at the end is what we need in order to establish necessary consensus, providing this long-term stable environment. We update the radio regulations. We provide stable, predictable regulatory environment. I'm going to skip that one. World Radio Conference are performed every 4 years. In the prior document, you will say that could be every 3 or 4 years, but according to the decision of Plenipotentiary 14, all big I2 conference will be performed every 4 years. Then in that case, the plan for the next World Radio Conference is working in a 4-year cycle. And we have these meetings. I'm going to explain later in a following slide. We are going to explain that tomorrow, how we have split the world in the different regions of the radio regulation. And again, it's different from the administrative regions. This is the cycle. With the cycle, we could better understood here all the components. In order to establish the consensus, is very important the role played by the sub-regional organizations and the regional organizations. In other words, we have these 6 recognized regional organizations for this topic: Asia Pacific Telecommunication, Arab Spectrum Management Group, African Telecommunication Union, Conference European de Post of Telecommunications, CTL, and regional Regional Communications Commission from the CIS countries, because it will be, let's say, less complicated trying to harmonize 6 regional positions than 193 positions coming from different one for every country. That's why the role played by the regional organization is very, very important when preparing the radio conference, because the idea is going by step. First, within a given region, having the different sub-regions, trying to find that consensus and common position at the level of sub-regions. In Americas, for example, we had a clear some sub-regional, could be, for example, CTU for the Caribbean, Conteca for Central America, CATEL, the working group for Mercosur related to the South America. Then, having these sub-regional common positions, they could discuss within the CTL, aiming to looking for a regional consensus, having as much as possible our regional common positions to be submitted to the conference. Then I take the occasion to thanks to all these regional and sub-regional organizations in the region, because you play a key role for the success of the conference. And saying that, this is the cycle of the WRC23 process in this case, but this is the typical cycle for any conference. But in this case, we have WRC19, they had defined the agenda that will be, that is submitted to approval of the council. And then just after the WRC19, we had the very first conference preparatory meeting. What the idea of that? To allocate the work of the agenda item to relevant study group. Then once we had defined the agenda, in these 2 days after the conference, we made something like the casting to say it will be necessary to perform this kind of particular study, this kind of particular studies. Then we give instruction to the study group to perform this analysis. And during the 4th year, they work through the ITR study group. And of course, CTL at the level of America is looking for the regional consensus. And finally, as a result of the work of CPM during this 4th year before, we consolidate the final report of the methods trying to solve every agenda item as the main product of the ITR study group to the conference. We had the radio assembly and they had then the radio conference. Then something important to say in that point, somebody mentioned and named the World Radio Conference at the Olympic Games of the spectrum management. And it's a very interesting, very useful analogy, because effectively it's every 4 years. But more important to that, it's not going to Geneva or any other site on the world every 4 years to discuss that. Actually, it's a process during 4 years. And as a high-level sport athlete, need to have national competition, regional competition, worldwide competition, and training a lot before going to the Olympics. In this case, it's similar. It's not going to Geneva or in 2023. It's participating in all the process prepared by CTL. It's participating as possibly in the study group that they are performing the necessary studies of compatibility and so on. Then we invite you to actively participate on these 4-year activities. We know this time and resource consuming, that is very expensive especially for small countries, but it's something very important to be performed. Working during these 4 years to achieve the necessary consensus. Well, this is the end of my presentations. I like at this moment to give the floor to Isvan, who is going to complement about activities and products from the BDT sector. And before we go to the part of question and answers. So please, Isvan.
Thank you, Joaquin, and sorry that before I start, I just saw a reply from the chat from Mr. Fabio Lobau from Anatel that the revision of the Spectrum Management Handbook 2011 is at the beginning stages, and there is a correspondence group discussing the topic within Working Party 1C electronic facilities, because there was a question. Before I just saw it, because I had a chance to look at the chats, not only your presentation. So may I share my screen?
Yep.
Yes, so I have 2 presentations, I hope rather short. One of them is about the ITUD study groups. The other one is on the activities of spectrum management, and especially my division in the ITUD or BDT. So let me start out to, yeah. So this is the ITUD study groups of ITUD's platform for knowledge exchange and capacity development. The ITUD study groups provide an opportunity for the membership to share experiences, presenting exchange views, and achieve consensus on strategies and addressing telecommunications ICT priorities. The key deliverables are the reports, guidelines, best practices, and recommendations based on inputs through contributions, case studies, and surveys. and ITUD study group output serves a guidance for implementation in member states. The main services of the study groups are the information exchange, so it's contribution driven and multi-stakeholder for members by members. I'm sure that Joaquin has the same. Capacity building mechanisms, the topical expert meetings, workshops and trainings, opportunities in headquarters and in the regions. The knowledge platform, repository of case studies, lessons learned, best practices and reports, and the expert exchange. The ITUD study groups work under the leadership of appointed chairman, vice chairman, rapporteurs and vice rapporteurs, and are supported by BDT focal points and the study group secretariat. Here you can see a picture of the study group reports from the last study period. You can see from both study group questions. And these are the study group questions which are under study in 2028-2021 study period. The study group 1 is the enabling environment for development of telecommunications and ICTs. And here on the second column, you can see that what are the relevant sustainable development goals and visits action lines. So there was the question before that how we are working on the SDGs. So here is some reply, but this is just for the study groups. So the study questions in the study group 1 is the strategies and policies for deployment of broadband in developing countries. I can say that this is a huge question with a lot of subjects and a lot of participants. The next one is the digital broadcasting study question is the strategies, policies, regulations, and methods of migration and adoption of digital broadcasting, implementation of new services. The next one is the question 3 is the emerging technologies, including the cloud computing, M-services, and OTTs. The question 4 is the economic policies and methods of determining the costs of services related to national telecommunication and ICT networks. Question 5 is the telecommunication ICTs for rural and remote areas. The question 6 is the customer information protection and rights. And the question 7, the access to telecommunication ICT services by person with disabilities and other person with specific needs. For the study group 2, this is the ICT services and applications for the promotion of sustainable development. Question 1/2 is the smart city, the creating smart cities and society. Question 2/2 is the telecommunication ICTs for e-health. The question 3/2 is the securing information and communication networks. The question 4 is the assistance to developing countries for implementing conformance and interoperability programs and combating counterfeit ICT equipment and theft of mobile devices. The question 5 is utilization telecommunications ICTs for disaster risk reduction and management. Question 6 is ICT and the environment, and the question 7 is the strategies and policies concerning human exposure to electromagnetic fields. This is the EMF question. Mr. Mazar, who was asking some questions before, he is the rapporteur of this group. Here you can see the information on the ITUD study groups, and they assist the member states in achieving their SDG targets and development goals. Here you can find a little summary of the relations of ITUD study group 1 questions with the radio communication. Of course, the broadband has a lot of links, efficient spectrum management, broadband penetration, policies enabling spectrum sharing, and consider the ITUR studies and WRC decisions. You can see here IMT 2020 hubs. So you will hear already some presentation on these subjects later during the seminar. The broadcasting question. This is assisting the countries for transition from analog to digital broadcasting, especially in terms of the frequency plans during the simulcast and upon completion of transition. The economic policy and methods of determining the cost of services. Here is the spectrum sharing framework within infrastructure sharing. The rural questions, of course, socio-economic impact of spectrum to remote areas. This is linked also a little bit the question of the connectivity, what was raised by one of the participants. Available satellite system and frequency bands for remote areas, consider available technologies and spectrum issues related to connect IoT devices in remote areas. And the question 7, the accessibility question. This is discuss on short-range devices and relevant ITR studies to make sure that persons with disabilities can have robust access and utilization to short-range devices. The next slide shows the relations of the ITUD study group 2 questions with radio communication. The smart city questions, of course, there are different scenarios for connectivity and monitoring purposes, and IoT and short-range devices, new generation of cellular and wireless systems. The conformance and interoperability. That's why I mentioned before that maybe type approval is also involved in the monitoring question on the study group of the ITUR. So he's implementing conformance program of devices, especially those of short range, to make sure that they operate in accordance with the radio regulations you can see here, national regulations, and the table of frequency allocation, in order to avoid interference, of course. And the EMF questions, the analyze regulatory policies concerning human exposure to EMF, propose guidelines and best practices on studying the challenges and opportunities of developing technical regulations on the limits for maximum exposure to non-ionizing electromagnetic radiation. This is especially a subject where all the 3 sectors and bureaus are working together, and especially from the working party 1C, there is already a report on the measurements of the EMF. Here is the milestone. Here are the milestones for this period, and you can see that the next meeting, the rapporteur group meeting, is 21 September, 16 October. We are very close to the WTDC, which is in the last quarter of 2021. So by that time, we have to have already the approved documents, approved reports from the study group questions. And that's why during the next meeting, we have to finalize the reports, finalize the draft guidelines and recommendations, propose, discuss possible study topics for the next period. I just want to mention that now the study groups are working, that they are preparing a kind of annual deliverables. So you don't need to wait for 4 years until a report is prepared, but of course the final report will contain this annual deliverables. Also, I wish to add that these meetings will be remote. I think it's similar to other meetings, like also from the radio communication sector. And there are already several thematic workshops, presentations ongoing. You can find it on the study group website. That we just have one on, for example, on question 2/1, that how the broadcasting can help in the case of COVID. You can find some more information on study groups, and these are the contact to the study group. And that's it for this part. Thank you for your attention. I don't see if there is any question, maybe you can tell me.
No questions posted as yet. You could probably go on to the second part, and while you go on, okay, some questions might post up.
Okay, so I'm going now to the next one. If I can find, it's not easy to see. Yes, that's it. Telling that during these 3.5 months, I learned a lot of tools, which is not so bad.
That's good.
So now I want to present the activities of the Telecommunication Network and Spectrum Management Division. This is my division, the TNS, and this is the division which is responsible only for the thematic priority on the networks and infrastructure. Of course, when I'm...
Isvan,
Yep.
we are not seeing the presentation. We are seeing your... your other window. Yeah.
It's funny because for me it's showing. Okay,
right.
let me try it once more.
Yeah, try it once more and select the presentation.
Oh, maybe what I can do that I can close. Just a second. So you still see my old presentation, the previous one?
No, what I was seeing was the Windows.
Because I haven't stopped the share, it seems to me.
Yeah, you didn't stop the old one.
Is it better now?
Yes, it is. We were seeing the Windows Explorer window where you were selecting the file.
Okay. And
so
now?
Now we are seeing output 2.1. Right.
Exactly. Okay.
Right.
So what I wanted to mention that in the headquarters, this is the division which is working on the thematic priorities, but we are working very closely with all the regional and area offices on the different subjects. So, of course, this is the most important to have harmonized work and cooperation, because even now we found that, for example, in some regions, they wanted to have similar activities, which were workshops. But because of the COVID, we decided that we have it an online workshop, and then the two regions can work together. So we can call it now inter-regional workshop. So the WTDC 17 output, which was Andres was asking that where are the objectives of the development sector. So here you can find the WTDC document. And the objective of this output is to assist member states and ITU sector members and associates in maximizing the use of the appropriate new technologies for the development of their information and communication infrastructure and services. I mentioned when I presented the website that what are the specific area for these activities: the spectrum management, radio monitoring, broadcasting, next generation networks, broadband networks, wired and wireless, including IMT, rural communication, the connectivity, conformance and interoperability. And here are the major outputs, key areas I don't want to repeat again. The main activities I also presented in the TOC, this theory of change, the training, tools and guidelines, publications, direct assistance to members, partnership and collaboration with various organizations. So here are the activities, a little bit more detailed. I don't want to go in deep details because sorry for the participants, I submitted my presentation a little bit late, so it was still not posted properly, but my colleagues will do it. Next generation networks, I mentioned, broadband networks, rural communication, conformance and interoperability, IPTU broadband, IPv6 and internet exchange implementation. This is a little bit more detailed. This is the ITU interactive transmission map, bridging the standardization gap, and then for this we are responsible for the action line C2, which is the infrastructure. And now here are the spectrum management and digital broadcasting activities. I'm sure that a lot of participants are familiar with the spectrum management software for developing countries, the SMS4DC, which helped for developing countries to manage the radio frequency, and more than 50 countries adopted since 2007. Then it started. The international meeting of users of the spectrum management system happened first in 2016, and we are planning to have more meetings, even if it's remote, but it's very useful because we can learn a lot from the users. This is just showing one example that the different versions are available in which region. So some of the countries are using still older versions. They can use it, but of course then they cannot have the new features of the software, and they are not entitled for backstop software support. What are the guidelines what we are preparing? The spectrum management assessment, national table of frequency allocation preparation, spectrum monitoring, especially for tendering, spectrum pricing, digital dividend. This was something which we prepared together with the BR and then also with ITUR experts. Guidelines for the transition to digital broadcasting. This is this green booklet. Gray booklet, sorry. Maybe I am too much on my vacation. So the gray booklet is providing assistance to the countries to develop their roadmap for the digital broadcasting. We have the trends in broadcasting. And just to add for all of them that these are short booklets, because we have, for example, the handbook on spectrum, national handbook on spectrum management, which is a very nice document from the radio communication sector, and it contains also some information on the assessment, national table of frequency allocation preparation. We have the spectrum monitoring handbook, but these are some practical guidance for the countries if they want to do, for example, spectrum management assessment, how they have to prepare the national table of frequency allocation. Also, we provided more than 30 assistance to more than 30 countries on the national table of frequency allocation preparation, also spectrum management assessment and the cross-border frequency coordination issues. Related to transition to digital terrestrial television broadcasting, we assisted more than 40 countries for the transition, and 10-15 countries was from the American region. This is what I'm mentioning here, the projects funded by Republic of Korea, Japan, Australia, and the Latin American Development Bank. And we have also the digital broadcasting transition database. You can find here the picture, and each time when I'm presenting somewhere, I'm asking the people that please update, because we have the database, but we cannot update it ourselves. So we need it from you, the information. Cross-border frequency coordination, we have a special activity, especially now in Africa, the harmonized coordination method for Africa, which is to set a standard and a mutually beneficial approach by consensus, provide a solid basis for bilateral and multilateral agreement, and oblige each country to take account of other stations. This is normal because you cannot work if you have interference, but you cannot cause interference. And for this activity, right now we have a PRIDA project, which is for Africa region. It's the continent Africa. It's a European Union and ITU common project, and we are working in close cooperation with the ATU also. I don't want to go in deep details of this. The spectrum management training program I already mentioned during the presentation on our activities. The main idea behind was that there is no holistic spectrum management education program, and it's difficult for small administration to train the staff. So that's why we developed the spectrum management training program, and we are working on the implementation, and ITU wants to proceed with this, especially for providing more and more trainings with in cooperation with the training institutes like universities and local training institutes. For broadband wireless project, we provided mobile WiMAX in Africa, also Swaziland, we had the assistance. Burundi, we connected schools and hospitals. So this is some practical work which is relevant also a little bit for the spectrum management. I mentioned already the connectivity issues, and we have the ITU last mile connectivity projects, where we want to provide guidelines, toolkit, and solutions to support ITU members. And here it's relevant also for spectrum management, because some of the technologies, or most of the technologies which can be used for last mile connectivity is wireless. The deliverables, planned deliverables, compilation of case studies from different regions. We received a lot of case study from the Americas region. analysis of the use of different technologies, policies, regulations. So what is important that when we provide this toolkit, it doesn't provide just technology, but it provides some examples for relevant policy, regulation, business models. And also when we have the toolkit finalized, then we are preparing also a software based on this, which can help to the countries to implement the toolkit and consider that what are the best solution for the last mile connectivity. Especially for this last mile connectivity project, we will have a special outcome which will be used for the GIGA project, which I mentioned before. This is the ITU UNICEF project for connecting the schools. We received a lot of help from the BR colleagues, and even I'm sure that they contacted some of the experts from the different study groups, because as I mentioned, since there are several spectrum issues, that's why we need the comment from the colleagues from the BR. This is the implementation phase, and when we have already also the tool and the software tool, we are planning to have also some projects, if we can find proper sponsors, to have the direct assistance to the countries. This is the DSO database, which I mentioned to you. And then I mentioned already the ITU broadband map. This is providing the information about the available fiber optic, submarine cables, IXPs, microwave links, and other features. Even in Asia Pacific part, we can have also the roads and railways. And we are working with the colleagues also from the region, especially for Carib region, to improve the quality of the map and go like more objective. The scope of this project is to research, process, and create maps of core transmission networks worldwide. And we want to assess the status of national connectivity and identify the gaps, assess market opportunities. Just one example, that we have the Fiji project, the financial inclusion project. And for Mexico, we work together with the experts that we provided the map information, and then they could combine it, for example, for the ATMs for mobile payments, to be used as a source of abundant and current data on global ICT connectivity. Here, what I'm recommending, you can check this map. I don't want to play the video now, but you can play the video. It's on the YouTube, and it's a very interesting small video that provides information on the broadband maps. The original idea for this further development was that we could provide all this information, but then how we are using the map. So that's why now this map is important part of the last mile connectivity toolkit. Conformance and interoperability, I mentioned to you also before that this is also partially important for the wireless communication. And you can see that we provided a lot of assistance to countries, also assisting them for setting up mutual recognition agreements, and we are providing guidelines trainings. These are some guidelines among the lot of publications that we have. So thank you very much for your attention, and now again, I'm ready to reply for the questions. Nigel, or back to you.
Yes, thank you, Isvan. There is a question for you.
Yes.
From Rafael Prata from Anatel, Brazil. And he says, Isvan, good afternoon. Do you see any opportunity to converge efforts in terms of new business intelligence developments and data analytics tools along with the BR? For example, in coverage maps, stations, radio communications indicators, and so on, considering space and terrestrial radio communications databases. So opportunities, yep. Go ahead.
So just to add that, for example, in our map, we are using already some of the BR database, especially for the satellite stations which were registered. Also, we are planning to have some work with the BR especially checking whether location, for example, a school is covered by a satellite, which satellite networks are covered. So I'm sure that we can do a lot of things, because the other thing you mentioned, the data analytics, that this is one of the direction where we want to go in the BDT, is using the statistics and data information. And this is also something what we are using for the Connect the School. So I think I don't see any problems to have some additional developments. But as I mentioned to you, we have very good cooperation with the BR. So if we have some good new ideas, I'm sure that we are ready to implement. Maybe Joaquin wants to add something.
Just to extend that thought about the cooperation with the BR, we saw Joaquin talk about a lot of resources on the BR section of the site, including handbooks, as you did talk about resources in the development section of the site and handbooks and so on. Is there duplication at all, or do you make handbooks on different?
No, it's not a duplication.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a duplication, because when we prepare this time,
oh, looks like we lost his connection.
Well, while Isvan get back, no, there's no duplication. You see the handbook from I2R dealing with the specific radio communication topics, for example, the National Spectrum Management Handbook, Satellite Services Handbook, and so on. While BDT handbooks could be about specific actions, for example, digital switchover and so on. And then we complement each other. Mm-hmm. And even that you could see effectively, for example, on these BDT reports, plenty of reference, cross-reference about the I2R handbooks.
I am
welcome back. Yes.
I don't know what happened, because I saw myself, I was talking, I saw the pictures, but I realized that you don't hear me. I think since we worked together with Joaquin very well, as I heard his end of his intervention, I completely agree that we are working together. And as I mentioned, that we don't want to implement something new. We want to work based on the results of the I2R works.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good.
Just to add that I'm sure that the two directors, and now I can say the three directors, are pushing working together on all the subject, because sometimes we have activities when we need all the three bureaus.
Right, okay, excellent. I don't see any more questions posted. Let me just clear that one. Yeah, we can look at the chat to see if there's any there's a clarification with respect to the maps link. Right, okay. I think that has been corrected in terms of how to find it. So I don't have any other questions waiting. So maybe Joaquin and Isvan could probably then wind up for today and talk about a little bit about what to expect tomorrow.
Don't expect anything from me tomorrow, because I am not here tomorrow, but I wish to start my vacation.
So we don't expect, we are jealous.
This is another problem.
Okay, tomorrow we have planned 2 sessions. On the first part, we are going to make an explanation about the basic concepts of the radio regulations that are necessary to be very well understood. So later on, my colleague from Terrestrial and Space Service could explain the particular provision, dispositions, and procedures about the registration of stations, interference situation, and so on. And the second part will be devoted to the World Radio Conference, specific about the World Radio Conference 19 main outcomes, and also about the WRC 23 agenda items analyzed by the both of sectors, space, both of departments, space and terrestrial. Then I invite you again to have tomorrow at your hand the document of the World Radio, of the radio regulations, particularly for tomorrow will be volume 1.
Okay.
And also get a glance of the document we provided as a WRC 19 final acts, because on the final act are precisely all the updates that we are going to do of the new radio regulation.
Okay. Very good. We have a question that came in regarding the TND map. That link, the question was, how updated is that link? Would that be you? No, that might be
Isvan.
Isvan. Are you seeing the question, Isvan?
Sorry, I was unmuted and then I had to find the button to mute.
Yes.
I was muted and to find unmute. So what we are doing that we have experts who are collecting us the data for the different regions and different areas. It's a very extensive work what we are doing. Sometimes we are receiving directly from administrations the information. Especially now for European region, we have a project where the countries can provide their infrastructure information and we can insert it into the map. We receive, for example, from Poland, all the information on their infrastructure. Unfortunately, because of some property problems, it's you can see the information, you can see some dashboard information, but we cannot provide the raw data to anybody, but we are still working on this issue. So also we sent out for a lot of countries, especially in Caribbean region, Cleveland maybe can confirm that we requested also from some countries the relevant information on the infrastructure. And then, of course, we update it regularly, the map. I hope it's replying the question.
So at any point in time then, I guess you are dependent upon the latest information being submitted by the individual countries, is that it? So some might be updated and some might not be updated?
Yeah, of course, it's the same than we have it for the broadband, the digital broadcasting information that countries providing us or some countries are not providing us. This infrastructure is a little bit more difficult because you know that sometimes there are some internal issues. Even if sometimes it's not directly just the telecom regulator who can help us, but other regulators can provide us this information. We are trying to do our best. Each time you can see in the map that what is the latest status, what is the latest date when we updated. Still we have work to do. But we have a little bit less capacity, but we are working on it. We don't give up because this is something which is really important.
Right. But would you say that you have a fixed schedule for updating? Do you try to update it by a particular time each year, or is it a continuous thing?
No, it's a continuous thing, but each year we have we are discussing with the different regions that, okay, guys, now we can have this capacity and which are the countries what you consider we can collect the information now. Right now for Americas, we collected it for Honduras because this is now because of concentrating also the Connect the School. We are considering this information, but we have contacts also with Caribbean colleagues for collecting this information. Now, because of the project for the GIGA, maybe we will have some possibilities to have some regional experts who can help us collecting the data.
Okay, that was from Enzo. Those questions were from Enzo Rivera. We have one from Malangu Lawson, I think, from Jamaica.
May I just before, may I add, because my colleague just put here some information. So May 2020,
okay, sure.
May 2020, the terrestrial backbone data research total, we have the 3,797 kilometer. This is the transmission links. We have 39,400 nodes, which where the links are connected. Also, we have for 186 countries and 527 network operators. So you can see it in the chat.
Yes, yes. And as I guess as the updates come in, you add or
yeah, but I can tell you that Vladimir is the right person because he is the main guru of the map, and he is the guy who is working a lot, not only just in collecting, but he had a lot of good new improvements, and now we are working also improving the graphics.
Okay.
So I see that Enzo thanks to him, but I thanks to Vladimir.
Yes.
To do it.
Okay. The spectrum management training program that you mentioned, there's a question from Jamaica.
Yep.
Is there a proposed timeline on the implementation of that training program?
Look, I have to check it with my colleagues from the human capacity building. You know, the training program, the training materials are available. We worked very close with the BR also on this, and it was updated after the WRC 15. So now there will be some new update which we need for WRC 19, but it will take for a while. So the training materials are available. It's just a question that how can we work on the implementation? Because I mentioned when I have some special presentation, sometimes I'm mentioning them that which universities we are trying to make some cooperation. For example, the Colombian University is interested on working together on presenting it. There were universities from Africa. Some universities are ready to present of the just some modules. In China, for example, we have Center of Excellence and we have regular trainings on spectrum management, and we are using these training materials.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I cannot tell it to you also that when it will be finally completely implemented, because now we have some ideas that maybe ITU can have also a kind of training institute, but it is just under discussion. Because when we have a training institute, it will be easier to present these trainings.
Right. But you say materials are available. Are they being used? Otherwise?
This is what I am involved more, and Joaquin is involved more in the content development. And
yes.
then we have our human capacity unit who is dealing with this, also this thematic priority. And we will see that how they will manage it.
Yes, as Ivan said, first it's important to say that the SMTP is already implemented. It's an existing product that has been used by some universities. What we are doing now is updating the content of the different presentations according to the result of the last radio conference, and also according to recent updating of handbooks or recent recommendation of I2R and so on. But the process itself is already available.
So we have some ideas also to use the SMTP from some regional organizations. So we are planning to have maybe something in Pacific, maybe this year, next year, with the PITA and other organizations.
Right, so people are wondering where can they get the material for
This is what we have to check with our colleagues from the human capacity building, that it will be available. Or the problem is that you can have the document, but it's still not enough. So, because, for example, that when you look at the training materials, we put there also reading materials. And sometimes it's referring some chapters of the spectrum management handbook, monitoring handbook, and so on. So that's why it's good to have also some kind of presentations. When we had one pilot at the wrong time ago, then we had the training materials, I mean the PowerPoint, but we had also an instructor who presented it.
Yes.
And then we had chat sessions and we had forums. And then there were a lot of questions to discuss. It was just for one module. So we still have to learn how to manage it, but at least the training materials are there and we can check with them that how we can make it available and if we can make it available.
Oh, what, right. So can I ask you then to ask that question of your colleagues and send back a response so we can update our attendees over the next few days?
Yeah, Joaquin, can you do it, because I will not be available for a while. So
yes, I could ask.
If you can ask Michael.
But when I little afraid is that this material is not free available, because, as we say, it's part of this program.
Yeah.
But anyhow, we are going to ask.
But we can ask them that if there is any idea.
Yeah, whether or not, at least we will know what would need to be done or what sort of time frame they're working with or whatever. All right, so if we could get a response back during the seminar, we would appreciate it.
Okay, we'll do it.
Yeah. All right, I think we are out of questions. I'll leave it up to you gentlemen now to close. I guess no more closing comments. So what I'll do is, I will close then. I'll
sorry. I didn't catch it. So.
Oh, you were muted. Okay.
So
go ahead.
Especially because, I like to be here each time, even in remote. So yes. Thank you very much for this opportunity, because it was really interesting, and to see that more than 250 participants we had, it was really excellent.
At one time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thank you very much, and have a good continuation.
Thank you, Isra, for being here today. Joaquin, we'll see you tomorrow, please God, and let me see.
Yes, same time.
Yes.
Thanks again to all the participants.
Indeed. So we start again with the second session tomorrow at the same time, 9 o'clock. Eastern Caribbean time. That's 9 a.m. in the UTC-4 time zone. And we look forward to as strong participation tomorrow as today. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.